This video is looking at a very short extract from Macbeth from the perspective of what can it tell us about Lady Macbeth. And it's one of those exchanges between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth which is really telling, really important in the first act of the play. So if we read it through to start off with, making sure that we're familiar with what's being said in modern English. Now, if you're writing about this analytically, you're not translating it for your reader, the person reading your essay. What you are doing is making sure you know what's going on, so you can then assume that they know what's going on, so you can then analyse the effect of Shakespeare's word choices, Shakespeare's images, and his characterisation. So at this point in the play, we've already seen Lady Macbeth calling on those spirits to give her the strength, to give her the power to ensure Duncan is killed so her husband Macbeth can be king in his place as the witches prophesied. And Macbeth then arrives and says, "My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight," so tells her that King Duncan will be staying with them in their castle that evening. Lady Macbeth says, "And when goes he hence?" So when is he going to leave? And Macbeth quite innocently says, "Well, tomorrow, as he purposes, tomorrow as he intends to." At which point Lady Macbeth says, "Oh, never shall sun that morrow see." Okay, well, the sun isn't going to see that tomorrow. The sun isn't going to see the moment that Duncan leaves the castle as he intends. And she says, "Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters." So she says, look at your face, my lord. It's so open. It's just like reading a book. If anybody looks at it, they're going to be reading this strange story from your face. So she's picking up this idea that he is kind of changing his expression because they're both thinking along the same lines. Neither of them are saying this, but this is kind of an understanding that's growing between them. So she says, to beguile the time, look like the time. So to spend the time kind of pleasantly, if you beguile something, you kind of while it away. Look like the occasion demands. So look like the time, the event needs you to look. And then she says, show welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. So, when you greet him, when you shake his hand, where everything you do, everything you say must welcome him. You've got to look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. So look like the flower, but be a snake waiting to strike underneath it. He that's coming, so Duncan, our visitor, must be provided for. And that's kind of ambiguous because if anybody's listening to them, you say, wow, the king's coming. We've got to make sure we're ready. Whereas she's saying, we've got to make sure we're ready because there's this unspoken agreement forming between them. And she says, you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch. So you shall leave me responsible for this important event this evening, which is going to give all our future, all our nights and days to come, it's going to give them kind of such significance and importance and command and mastery. She uses the word sovereign and masterdom, that idea of we're going to take over. We're going to be kind of in charge after tonight. And Macbeth says, we will speak further. And it depends on how the director of the production wants to play that. You can have Macbeth almost kind of slightly horrified at his wife going, we'll talk about this later. Or him kind of going, we will speak further. This is going to take another conversation. And Lady Macbeth just finishes this section by saying, only, basically sort your face out. Because she says, make sure your face is clear, look up clear. To alter favour ever is to fear. The minute you allow your face to change, then we've got something to worry about. No one can suspect us. And she says, leave all the rest to me. So hopefully that gives you an insight into kind of what's going on language-wise, story-wise, linguistically. And what we're going to do is look at what it tells us about Lady Macbeth and the choices, the methods that Shakespeare's using and the effect of those methods. So I've already done a little bit of annotation just to keep me on track, but let's look at it through. So first of all, if I just change colour, I'll do any new annotation in blue. We've got Macbeth saying, "My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight." And you can see that that's superlative. It's not just my dear love, it's my dearest love. You know, Lady Macbeth is adored by Macbeth, and that gives you some indication as to the effect and the influence she has on him. So, you know, he clearly loves her and holds her in high regard, really kind of thinks highly of her, to use that superlative. And he presents the idea of, you know, the king's coming. But Lady Macbeth's reaction here with this question is blunt. Okay, you know, you've just been told the king's coming to stay. There's no, oh my goodness, wow, we're so honoured. It's just, when's he leaving? Which is kind of like, how long have we got? You know, how quickly do we have to do this? Would be the undertone. So that question is kind of for a specific purpose, if you like. And all the way through this, there's an ambiguity about what she's saying and what she's planning. So if something's ambiguous, it means it can be understood more than one way. So if you were overhearing this, this is, you know, a conversation between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth as they're talking about, wow, the king's coming, we've got to get ready. Okay, if you are Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and you're exchanging those looks and you know what's kind of the other one is thinking, this is the preparation for regicide, that killing of a king. Okay, so Macbeth is being straightforward, tomorrow as he purposes, and Lady Macbeth comes in with this apostrophe, okay, that O, that sigh, and they are usually indicating intense emotion or conviction or so. So, you know, this is an extreme reaction from her, and this exclamation here, you know, oh, he's you know, the sun's not going to see that day, and the confidence of her in that assertion, she has no doubt that they are going to do this. The sun is never going to rise on the day that he leaves here, as he intends to. And you can see she knows Macbeth well, and she's aware of the dangers that Macbeth's weaknesses pose to them, even at this stage. And she uses this simile in terms of, you know, you can read you like a book, you know, just watch your face. And, you know, this idea of strange matters, she's aware of that kind of supernatural element. You know, this is not the normal order of things. And she plays with meanings here. You know, she uses this idea of the time being the time passing and the time being the occasion. So she is kind of slippery in her language and her meaning. She's difficult to pin down. And says, you know, to spend the time look like the time, to beguile the time look like the time, sorry. And she starts to play with these ideas of appearance and reality. And that's one of the big themes in the play. So she says, you've got to make sure you bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. So this triple here, this is all Macbeth's physical and outward gestures. You know, you've got to put on this act as she lists these things in that triple. And, you know, his welcome, his handshake, his speech, you know, everything he does has to symbolise he is still the loyal subject. And we can tell that she's in control. She's got this all planned out. She knows what her husband's weaknesses are, and she knows the advice she's got to give him about how they're going to do it and how they're going to get away with it. She says, he that's coming must, look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. Can't forget that. That simile you can read on kind of 4 different levels. It's talking about that, you know, you've got to have the appearance of one thing when the reality is something else. The idea that if you unpick the kind of surface connotations of that simile, a beautiful flower, an innocent flower, the flower is personified. You know, it could do no wrong, it's all innocent. but there is a snake under it, and we can associate snakes with attack, with venom, with poison, with danger. So look all safe, be dangerous. Then we've got the potential biblical allusion. So an allusion is an indirect reference. The biblical allusion to serpents, these serpents in the Bible, if you think of Adam and Eve, Satan disguising himself as a serpent to tempt Eve to eat the apple. This is a woman, a female character, who is then associated with serpents. Those idea of kind of betrayal and deception. And then finally, this little point is a brilliant little point. If you want to know more about this, Google British Library gunpowder plot Macbeth serpent. That will give you a whole article on this. But James I, by the time Macbeth was written, James I had recently survived an assassination plot because Guy Fawkes and his co-conspirators had been wanting to blow up the Houses of Parliament. And their plan was foiled and they were, executed in due course. But to commemorate the foiling of that plan, a special commemorative coin was struck. And it had a flower and it had a serpent on it, a serpent hiding under the flower, to show the deception and betrayal that had been discovered and overthrown. And if you Google that British Library article, you can see a picture of it. And that would have been known to Shakespeare's audience. So that was alluding to, referring to this very well-known plot against a king. Obviously, foreshadowing-wise, it's foiled, and it's not going to be foiled in the Macbeth story. Duncan does die, whereas James didn't. But it's just another layer of meaning, So she is playing with these multiple levels of interpretation. And then he that's coming must be provided for. So mentioned before that, if you're listening to this, it's kind of, we've got to get ready, or it's we've got to get ready. The modal verb there, must be provided for. This is imperative. This is something, as far as she's concerned, has to happen. None of this is this a dagger I see before me doubt. It's going to happen. Never, the sun's never going to see that day, etc. And she uses this euphemism, and a euphemism is a softer term to talk about a harder or a less palatable, a less pleasant concept. So, must be provided for can also mean, we've got to deal with him, we've got to kill him. And she starts giving her husband orders. You shall put this night's great business into my dispatch. You will leave the important stuff to me. So she's in control, she's in command, she's confident. And she has no doubt it shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. So we've got a couple of things here to unpick. It's very definite, this plan is going to give all our days and nights to come. Our entire future is going to be dictated by this. And this kind of sibilance allows her to sort of hiss it, or to kind of really dwell on that idea. Because sovereign, it deals with kind of monarchy, deals with having sole power, and obviously so does masterdom. So saying, we are going to get ultimate power from what we're about to do. She also has this rhyming couplet here, which again can indicate decision and finality and resolution. She has made her mind up, Shakespeare is signalling by this rhyming couplet. And Macbeth, we will speak further. As I said, it could go one of two ways. Is he on board? Is he not on board? And she reminds him again, don't let your face express your fear. But ultimately leaves him on another order. Leave all the rest to me. You just need to sort your face out and play along with this idea of you are the good host. Leave everything else to me. So she is an atypical female character. She has command of her husband rather than being submissive or weaker. She is one who is advocating violence. She is one who has everything kind of sorted out. She is not honest. She's not honest in her action, she's not honest in her language. It's got all these layers of meaning going into it. If you're using this as a basis to kind of draw out some quotations for how does Shakespeare present Lady Macbeth, really useful. So just pick out those different ideas we've talked about as topic sentences and use your methods and your quotations to support them in your writing. Good luck.